So in this video, just we are going to understand what are the constructors. We'll understand what are my constructors. Okay. And also we are going to understand what is the importance of the method called as uh, finalize method. Finalize method. And also while understanding the concepts of the constructors, we also understand how many types of constructors are there in your Java language. Okay. So in the last video, I explained you what is a class and what are the fields we have within the class. Okay. Isn't it last class? I think I explained you what is a class, why we are going to have a class, and what are the items we have within the class we understood in the last video. Right now, we'll see what is a constructor. And we say that a constructor is also a method. A constructor is a method which have the same name, same name of the class. So a method which is going to have the same name of the class, I call it as your constructor. And the speciality of this method is that it is invoked when we try to create an object of the class. So when it will be called, I will be calling a method. As I said, it is a method, right? Whenever I say it is a method, we need to call that method. So when we are going to call that method, we are going to call that method constructor whenever I want to create an object of the class. Okay. Then what is the importance and what is the speciality of the class is that it is used for initializing the variables of the class. So why we use that constructor? We are going to use that constructor to initialize the variables which are there in my class, right? Okay. And as I said that it is a method. So whenever I say it is a method, as we all know that a method should contain a return type, but a constructor should not contain any return type. Okay, it should not contain any return type. So now if I understand again, if I go to the beginning again, as I said that a constructor is also a method which have the same name of the class, and it is been called whenever I create an object of the class. And the importance of that constructor is that it is going to initialize the variables of my class. And that constructor should not contain any return type. Okay. And this constructor should not be under the private access specifier. It should not be under your private access specifier. We know what happens if I use my private access specifier. So that constructor should not be under the private access specifier, right? So with this thing, now we understand what is a constructor. We say it is a method, okay? And it is been called whenever I create an object. It is used for initializing the variables, and then it is not going to contain any return type. Now we'll take a small example of a constructor, and then we start executing that constructor, and then we'll understand how many types of constructors are there as a part of my Java language. Okay. Now we'll take a small example so that we can understand it very well. So I have a class with a name called emp12. Okay, it's the name of my class. And I would like to write a constructor here. As I said, the constructor is going to contain the same name of the class, and I said it is a method. Whenever I say it is a method, it need to contain a body, right? And as a part of that body, we are going to have some instructions there. So what I do now, just I say, I create an object, right? So now if you can understand, if you can see this method, right? This method is having the same name of the class, okay? And I say it is a method, and it is not having any return type. It is also having the body. right? And when it will be called, I will be calling this method whenever I create an object of my class. And if I don't create an object of my class, I don't call this method. Now, along with this method, right, now what I do is I will be writing my main method. We know the importance of this method, isn't it? We know the importance of this method, why we write this method. So whenever you want to execute a method, whenever you want to execute your program on the console of my computer, we are going to use the method called as your main method, right? So we are going to write, okay. Now I would like to have an object of my class. So for having an object of my class, what I do here, just I will be using an operator here. That's it. Okay, now we are having an object of my class. So whenever I create an object of my class, as I said earlier, I will be invoking the constructor. I will be calling the constructor. I am calling the constructor. It means that whatever the instructions which are there as a part of the constructor will be executed for you. Now what I do, I just save my program. I'll save my program. emp12.java. I save my program. Now I just execute my program for you, right? Now we'll see what happens if I execute my program. I think now you all can see my screen, right? My command screen, all of you can see it, right? Yes or no? Teja, can you see my screen now, black screen? Yeah, I think now you can observe the output there. And if you can see that object, right? If you can see the output of this program, whatever the content which is there as a part of the constructor is been shown on the screen. So with this information now, what you understand now, I understand that, okay, I'll be calling a constructor. I will be calling a constructor whenever I create an object of my class. How many objects I may create? Suppose I say I'm creating 5 different objects. 5 times we are going to call my constructor and all, isn't it? I hope you are able to understand now what is a constructor now and how we are going to call the constructor. Now we'll see how many types of constructors we have in our Java language, right? Now we'll see how many types of constructors I have. So in our Java language, we are going to have 3 types of constructors, right? Number one is default constructor. Okay. Number 2 is parameterized constructor. And number 3 is a copy constructor. So in our Java language, we are going to have 3 different types of constructors, right? Number 1 is a default constructor. Number 2 is a parameterized constructor. And number 3 is a copy constructor. Now we'll understand each and every type of constructor by taking a small example. The first one, I gave the first example, right? Now, if a constructor is not going to take any argument into it, okay, if a constructor is not going to take any argument into it, then we call that constructor as a default constructor. It is about the first one. Then we need to understand about the second type of constructor called as my parameterized constructor. If a constructor is going to take an argument into it, okay, then we call that constructor as a parameterized constructor, right? I hope again I repeat it again. It's a constructor which is going to take some arguments into it. So whenever a constructor is going to take some argument into it, then we call it as a parameterized constructor. Now, I'll take a small example of my parameterized constructor. Suppose I want to send an integer as an argument here. So what I do now, your constructor is also going to take an argument there. Then I say plus number. Right? Now we are going to save my program now. Then we'll compile the program. Then we'll execute the program. And if you execute the program, it is saying that I create an object plus that value which we are going to send. See, because we are sending an integer as an argument here, the constructor should also have a variable which can hold that number, right? So we need to declare it as a number, right? Because we are sending it as a number. And then we are going to save my program, and then we are going to compile the program, and then we are going to execute the program, right? Now you can see the execution also. Now an object, I create an object with some number, right? So with this information, now you understand the second type of constructor also. So what is the first constructor now? First type of constructor, a constructor which is not going to take any argument. I call it as a default constructor, and a constructor which is going to take an argument. Then we call it as a parameterized constructor. Now we are going to talk about another interesting constructor called as my copy constructor. Okay, now we'll see what is a copy constructor. Now, whenever I say I use the word copy, it means that to store a value from one item to another item, or one place to another item, then we call it as your copying, right? So this copy constructor is used for copying the contents of one objects into another object. Okay, so whenever you want to copy the contents of one object, okay, into another object, then we are going to take the help of the specialized constructor called as my copy constructor. Right now we'll see a small example of my copy constructor, then we'll understand the importance of that copy constructor now. So in this example, what I do is I declare two variables. Okay, I'll declare, what I do is I'll declare two variables. One is ID, one is name, and another is ID. Now in this class we are going to have a parameterized constructor. What I do now, I'll be having a parameterized constructor. ID. So what I do now, just I'm having a constructor down there. Now what my constructor is doing now, my constructor is a parameterized constructor. It means that that constructor is having an ability, right? My constructor is now having an ability to take some arguments. Okay. Now I'll send one name into it. So my name is something like Avinash. Okay. Now my ID is something like 101. So now I am calling a parameterized constructor there. Now, whenever I say parameterized constructor, it means that I will be invoking a constructor which is going to match the exact arguments while creating an object of my class. Now, what I do is I'll copy the content, right? So I say name is equal to n, comma, stid is equal to id. Now what I'm doing now, just I'm copying the contents into the variables of my class. Now what I'm doing there, I'm just copying the values into those variables. Okay. Now I want to call a copy constructor now. I would like to create a copy constructor. Now we'll see how we are going to create a copy constructor there. Okay. I hope you are able to understand, right, what is the intention of these constructors and all. Just I would like to see how many participants are there. Just I could see only very few participants here. Only 14 participants. Yesterday it was 24. Now it has been dropped down to 14, right? Isn't it? Why so, Mr. Teja? Why so? Why it is happening, Mr. Teja? Are you there? Teja, are you there? No, he's not there. He just switched on his mobile and went away, I think so. Is it so, Mr. Avinash, are you there? Am I audible to you all, Mr.? One thing.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Then
Yes,
where
sir.
are those people? Avina, where is that Teja? Is there? Went away.
He was there in the meeting, sir.
But now you could not find him, isn't it? Okay, no issue, right? Now we'll see how we are going to write a copy constructor there. Now, whenever I talk about a copy constructor, what I do is that we are going to send the object as an argument into the constructor. Okay, now what I do? I'll send the object of a class as an argument into the constructor. So how I'll do it, just see here. I simply write in this way. So I have a constructor. We know what is a constructor now. Okay. And we all know that a constructor is also a method. A constructor is also a method. Now, what this constructor is going to do now, my constructor is going to take the object as an argument. Okay, the object as an argument. Okay, now what I do here now, just to see here, I'll be saying name is equal to obj dot name and student ID is equal to obj dot st id. Now what I am doing now, I am copying the contents of one object into the variables of another class. Okay, it means that I'm copying the content of one object into another object. Now it can be done by taking the help of my copy constructor. Now, if you can see this one now, what I'm doing there now, I'm having an object, isn't it? I'm having an object with me. Now, what I'm doing now, the contents which are there as a part of one object are copied into another. Okay, now just I would like to show the elements of this one now. Just what I do now, I just say system dot out dot println. Just I would like to print the name, okay, plus then we are going to say student ID. That's it. Now what I am doing there, just we are going to print the elements there. Just we are going to print the elements there. Now we'll see what happens and how we are going to call this copy constructor and all. See here, whenever I want to copy things, just what I do is, I will be saying, I will be creating another object number 2 is equal to new emp12. Now what I do here, I'll just send the obj as an argument into this one. Now, what is happening there now? In this case, what is happening there? Just we are going to send the earlier object, the object which is created earlier is sent as an object, as an argument while calling the constructor of my second object. Now, what my second constructor is doing there, my constructor, my parameterized constructor, which is taking the object as an argument, which is initializing the variables of that object with the existing object values. Okay, now just I save my program and I compile my program so that you can understand what is going to happen there, right? Now I'll compile the program there. I'll just say Java C emp12.java. Yeah, now I'll say emp12. Now if you can see there now, what is happening there? Avinash 101. So from where we are going to get that 101 and Avinash? That 101 and Avinash is coming from the first object, right? So we are not showing the elements down there. But what I am doing now, I am sending this object, right? The first object as an argument into the constructor of my second object. And as I said in the beginning, these copy constructors are used to copy the contents of one object into another object. Okay, so with this information now, you understand how many types of constructors are there now. So now how many constructors are there now? We can say that we are going to have three types of constructors. What are there? Number one, a default constructor. Number two, a parameterized constructor. Number three, a copy constructor. Now what the default constructor is going to do? A constructor which is not going to take any arguments is called as a default constructor. And one more thing just I would like to add here is that if you forget to write a constructor inside a class, it is the duty of the compiler to create a default constructor to your class. One more time. If you forget to write a constructor to your class, okay, so what your compiler is going to do? Your compiler is going to add a default constructor onto my class. It is about the first one. And the second one is called as a parameterized constructor. So if a constructor is going to take some values into it as some arguments, okay, then we call it as a parameterized constructor. So we can send n number of arguments into it. Okay, as we all know that a constructor is used for initializing the variables of my class, right? So by sending the parameters, right, into the constructor, I can initialize the variables of my class. And then the third one I have is called as a copy constructor. Now, what is a copy constructor? If I would like to copy the contents of one object into another object, okay, then we are going to take the help of my copy constructor. So here is the example for that copy constructor. So you can note down this one, we can spend some time on it, and we can execute the program on your own. I hope you understood the types of constructors, what is a constructor, and how we are going to call the constructors and all. Okay, now we are going to understand the second part. The second part of this video is to understand the method called as a finalize method, which is a very interesting thing. Now, while I was explaining the features of the Java, I said that our Java is going to have a special feature called as garbage collector. And we know what is a garbage, the wastage I want to collect. And the concept of collecting the wastage of my program or your Java application, I call it as garbage collection. Okay, now we'll see how we are going to collect that garbage. And what are the methods I have to collect the garbage, we'll see now. Now we'll have the same example now, the same old example, okay. The example is that I will be having a class, okay. I'll be having a class, okay. Now in the class, we are going to write a method here called as finalize. What is that method here? That method is called as a finalize method. And this method is a void method. What it is? It is a void method, and this method should be under the access specifier called as protected access specifier. Now, I'll write one output statement here, println I collected garbage. What we are doing now, I am just saying I am collecting the garbage. I collected the garbage is the output. I collected the garbage, right? Now, this is how, right, we are going to declare. Okay, somebody is saying power gone. Okay, he's Saitesh. Okay, man, no problem. I'll share this video also, right? I'll share this video over the YouTube, right? So if you are interested, you can also go through this video. Just I'm planning to share all those videos over the YouTube, right? Because I have a channel, okay? I'll share this video on the YouTube, and you can observe these videos, and you can get some information regarding these concepts, right? So what I do now here, whenever I write a finalize, that finalize method should be under void, okay, and that finalize method should be under the access specifier called as my protected access specifier. So whenever you want to call this method called finalize, what we are going to do is just I will be saying system.gc, where your GC stands for my garbage collector. What does it mean now? Your GC stands for my garbage collector. So whenever I say GC, okay, whenever I call the method called GC, what my GC is going to do is it is going to call the method called as my finalize. And whenever I call the method finalize, whatever the content or whatever the elements which are there, in that finalize method will be executed for you. Now just we'll see the execution of this program now. I'll save this program. Now I'll compile this program for you. I'll just compile my program. Okay. I'll say Java C emp12.java. Just I'll be saying emp12.java. Okay. And it's only a warning, right? And we are not going to bother about that one. Java mp12. Oh God, what is the output there? We are not getting any output. Okay. We'll see why we are not getting any output. Okay, I'll save this. Did I save this program? Yes, I saved this program, but I am not getting any output. Okay. So what we are able to understand there now, a finalize is a method. Okay. By finalize the method, what we are going to understand, I understand that whenever I call that method, okay, whenever I say the method, we are going to call this one. Okay. So I'll just have one more instruction there down. I'll add one more instruction after my GC. You'll see why it is not working. End of garbage collection. Just now I'll save my program. I'll just compile my program. Okay, then I'll execute my end of garbage collection, but I'm not getting the output from the finalize method, isn't it? I should get that element called as I collected the garbage. Okay, that should be done, and we are unable to get that one. We'll see why I'm not getting that calling the garbage collector. Why my version is not supporting? Is that like? Okay, I think we need to create an object of this class also. We'll create an object of my class. So I'll just write one to obj is equal to new mp12, right? Okay, now I'll save my program. I'll just compile my program and I just execute my program. Still we are not having the output of it, right? Protected void finalize, but it should execute, right? It should call the method called finalize, but it is unable to do it. We'll see why. Yeah, what I do is I'll just call this one also. I will use these instructions also to add something to it. Because it is not executing, I'm adding all those things, okay? Yeah. So what I'm doing now, I just collected the garbage. So whenever you want to call my garbage collector, so what I need to do is I'll just take out this statement also. Actually, this statement is not required. Okay, this statement is not required. Okay, so I will share the code again. Just for the confirmation sake, I am executing the program again, right? So what I'm doing here now is that just I'll call the object, right? We are going to store some value, or simply I say that we are going to initialize that object. So without initializing that object, I cannot call my garbage collector. Okay, so what we are going to do now, I'll be saying obj is equal to, now we are going to create an object down there, and then we are going to store the null value, and then whenever you want to call the garbage collector, okay, then we are going to use the method called gc method, and this gc method has to be used on your system. Okay, so whenever I call this method, what my Java virtual machine is going to do is it is going to call the method called as a finalize. And whenever I call the method finalize, what happens there is that I will be executing all the instructions which are there in my finalize method, right? So this is how we are going to say that our Java environment is going to support the concept called as garbage collection. Okay, with this example now you understood, right, how we are going to create a constructor, and also you understood how many types of constructors are there, and also you understood the method called as a finalize method. Okay, so with this content we are going to stop this session. Okay, and again I will be intimating you later regarding the further topics. Next topic I'll be talking regarding the polymorphism, where we are going to talk about overloading, how many types of overloadings are there. And in the second session, I will talk about overriding also. After completion of my inheritance, I'll also go with my overriding method also, right? Okay. So we'll end this session.